Title: The Last Reckoning. Action Adventure Thriller Revenge Brotherhood. Synopsis. After dismantling the feared Brotherhood of Hunters, Shadow, Vex, Grim, and Koda set their sights on an even greater enemy, the corrupt tyrants who had used them as pawns in their brutal reign. These rulers, hidden behind wealth and power, had orchestrated assassinations, silenced rebels, and ruled with an iron fist. But the hunters are no longer tools, they are now the reckoning. As they infiltrate cities, exposing dark secrets and toppling empires, they soon uncover a chilling truth: the tyrants were not acting alone. A shadowy council, more powerful than any of them imagined, has been pulling the strings from the beginning. With deadly assassins sent after them, enemies at every turn, and an ultimate showdown looming, the hunters must decide: will they fight for justice or become the very monsters they swore to destroy? Chapter 1. Lord Darien, the first name on their long list of tyrants. The once feared nobleman had ruled with an iron fist, his wealth built on the blood of the innocent, and now the reckoning had come. Shadow crouched on the rooftop, scanning the courtyard below where Darien's guards patrolled in pairs. Vex and Grim were already in position, hidden within the shadows of the garden. Koda, leaning casually against a stone gargoyle. "Feels like old times, doesn't it?" he whispered. Vex snorted. "Except this time, we're actually the good guys." Shadow exhaled slowly, gripping the hilt of his dagger. "Let's make it quick. No alarms, no escape routes." Koda chuckled. "No fun either." Before Shadow could respond, a loud clang echoed through the courtyard. Grim groaned from the bushes. Who the hell just knocked over a helmet? They turned to Vex, who was frozen mid-step, staring at the iron helmet rolling across the stone floor. A guard's head snapped toward the noise. Intrud. A dagger buried itself in his throat before he could finish. "Well, so much for quiet," Koda muttered, drawing his sword. Within moments, the courtyard exploded into chaos. Guards swarmed, steel clashing as the four warriors tore through them. Grim's axe cleaved through armor like parchment. Vex was a whirlwind of blades. Koda danced through the fight with a grin, and Shadow, his arrows striking with unerring accuracy, was a ghost, unseen until it was too late. Lord Darien, hearing the commotion, stumbled into the courtyard in his ornate robe, eyes wide with terror. He wasn't a warrior, just a coward hiding behind wealth and cruelty. "You," he stammered, pointing at them. "I'll pay double, triple, whatever you're being offered." Shadow stepped forward, his blade catching the moonlight. "We're not here for money." "No," he whispered. "No, please, Koda flicked blood off his sword. "Should have thought of that before selling out your own people, mate." The final blow came swift and silent. Lord Darien, the first of many, fell to his knees before crumpling onto the cold stone. Silence settled over the courtyard. Vex sighed. "One down." Grim stretched. "This is going to be a long road." Koda grinned. "And one hell of a fun ride." Shadow sheathed his dagger. "Then let's make sure the next one knows we're coming." Chapter 2. Lord Dragon, one of the most ruthless tyrants to ever hire the Brotherhood. He had bathed the lands in blood, using assassins to silence anyone who dared oppose him. But tonight, the hunters had come for him. From the rooftops, Shadow, Vex, and Grim crouched in silence, eyes locked on the heavily guarded palace entrance. Behind them, Koda stretched lazily and yawned. "Tell me again why we're sneaking in like thieves when we could just bash through the front gate?" Koda grumbled. Shadow sighed, adjusting his bowstring. "Because, genius, we need to send a message, not start a war. A silent, clean strike will shake the other tyrants more than a bloody massacre." Vex said. "Plus, it's more fun this way. Stealth, precision, and—" Grim interrupted, grinning. and the sheer joy of watching Koda struggle to keep quiet. Koda rolled his eyes. Fine. But if this plan goes south, I'm smashing my way through, whether you like it or not. With that, they moved. Like shadows in the night, they scaled the palace walls, dodging sentries. Vex reached the first tower and took out an archer before he could even gasp. Grim slipped into the stables, ensuring no alarm could be raised from within. Shadow signaled with a flick of his fingers, clear path ahead. They had one target, Lord Dragon. But as they slipped into the throne room, he was already waiting. Surrounded by 6 elite guards, Dragon lounged in his golden chair. He clapped slowly. Oh, how the mighty Brotherhood has fallen. Flint's betrayal, Onyx's downfall, and now the strays come to bite at my heels. He leaned forward, eyes gleaming with amusement. Tell me, Shadow, do you really think you stand a chance? Shadow drew an arrow, aiming it directly at Dragon's smug face. Oh, I don't think. I know. With a flick of his hand, Vex spun into action, slashing through the first guard like he was made of paper. Grim took on 2 at once, dodging their spears with ease. Shadow fired arrow after arrow, each one striking its mark with deadly accuracy. Then there was Koda. Instead of fighting, he sat down, arms crossed. You guys got this, right? Vex dodged a blade by inches and shot him a glare. Koda. What? I was promised some fun, but you're handling it just fine. A spear whizzed past his head. All right, I'm in. With a thunderous roar, Koda charged forward, grabbing 2 guards and slamming their heads together like a pair of coconuts. The fight was fast and brutal. In minutes, only Dragon remained, panting heavily. This isn't over, he spat, reaching for a hidden dagger. Shadow sighed. Oh, but it is for you. He loosed his final arrow, straight through Dragon's hand, pinning it to the throne. The tyrant howled in pain. Koda stepped forward, towering over him. What now? We got him. Shadow shook his head. No, let the people decide. With that, they dragged the disgraced tyrant outside, where the city had gathered, waiting, watching. Vex took out a list and said, 2 down, many to go. As the crowd erupted in cheers, Koda grinned and stretched. That was fun. So, who's next? Shadow gazed toward the distant horizon, where more tyrants sat in their high castles, believing themselves untouchable. We make them all fall. Chapter 3. The Grand Chamber, a room hidden deep within the mountains of Ravenspire, seated the most powerful tyrants in the land. They were seated in a circular formation, their expressions a mix of fear and rage. This was the Shadow Council, the unseen hand that had controlled the world from the shadows for decades. A massive silverback gorilla, known as Chancellor Bane, slammed his fist on the table, cracking the wood. 2 of our own have fallen within the past moon cycle. This is no coincidence. Someone is hunting us. Across from him, Lady Seraphis, a snowy owl draped in dark robes, leaned forward. We know exactly who they are, she said coldly. The rogue hunters. Shadow, Vex, Grim, and Koda. They are taking out our assets one by one. The murmurs in the room grew louder. Some whispered about abandoning their positions and fleeing, while others spoke of retaliation. Duke Ralver, a scarred hyena with jagged teeth, laughed mockingly. Panic already? Where are your spines? A handful of rogue mercenaries do not frighten me. Torin, a black panther draped in royal gold, replied him. Then perhaps you should be the next target, he said smoothly. The room fell silent. Seraphis flapped her wings. This is not the time to bicker. We must act before they dismantle everything we have built. Bane leaned forward. We cannot attack them head-on. We need a new strategy. Seraphis smiled. Then let's turn the people against them. The others exchanged glances. She continued. We brand them as traitors, terrorists, and criminals. We use their past against them, then set them up. Ralver chuckled darkly. Spread the word. Post their faces in every city, every village. A price on their heads so high that even their allies will turn them in. Torin added, and when they are cornered, we burn them alive. The council nodded in agreement. The hunt had begun. Meanwhile, in the heart of the rebellion, Shadow, Vex, Grim, and Koda sat around a fire, unaware that the tides were about to turn against them. Chapter 4. Shadow, Vex, Grim, and Koda moved swiftly through the alleyways of Ivory Hollow, a city ruled by one of the most feared tyrants on their list, Baron Hallowfang, a ruthless lion with an iron grip on his people. Their plan was simple: slip into his estate, eliminate him, and send a message to the remaining tyrants that their reign was coming to an end. But something felt off. Koda sniffed the air and wrinkled his nose. Something stinks. Vex raised a brow. That's just your fur. When's the last time you bathed? Koda smiled. When's the last time you shut up? Shadow crouched ahead, motioned for silence. They had arrived at the target's estate, but instead of the usual guards, there was an eerie quiet. The gates closed, but no sentries. No resistance. Grim cracked his knuckles. This is too easy. They stepped inside cautiously. The halls were empty. No servants. No security. And then they saw it. Right in the center of the grand hall, a body lay lifeless on the cold marble floor. It wasn't Baron Hallowfang. It was an innocent citizen, bound and executed. The realization hit them too late. A loud bell rang out through the city. From the rooftops, the sound of horns and shouts filled the air. Doors flung open as citizens spilled into the streets. Guards, soldiers, and common folk alike stormed toward the estate, their eyes burning with rage and betrayal. Vex cursed. Oh, that's just perfect. They think we did this. Koda threw his hands in the air. I knew this stank of a setup. I said it smelled fishy, but no, let's walk right into the murder house. Shadow's eyes moved to the rooftops. Banners had been raised with their faces on them, marked with the word, traitors. Grim growled. We need to move. Now. The people of Ivory Hollow weren't just angry, they were out for blood. Baron Hallowfang himself, standing on a nearby balcony, pointed directly at them and bellowed, These are the murderers. They slaughtered an innocent citizen. Bring me their heads. Vex sighed. You know, I was really looking forward to a clean assassination tonight. Shadow didn't answer. Who had set them up? Who knew where they would be? This wasn't just a simple counterattack. Someone powerful had orchestrated this. Someone was pulling the strings from the shadows. As the four of them dodged arrows, leaped across rooftops, and fled the city, one thing became clear: someone was onto them. And they were going to find out who was behind it. Chapter 5. The four fugitives crouched in the depths of the midnight woods, miles away from Ivory Hollow. The city's bounty hunters, guards, and mercenaries were scouring the lands for them, their names now in the minds of every greedy blade looking for a quick payday. They sat in tense silence around a campfire, their faces shadowed by the flames. Koda huffed. Well, that went beautifully. In fact, I think that was our cleanest mission yet. No blood on our hands, just an entire city wanting us dead. Fantastic work, everyone. Vex rolled her eyes. Would you shut up and let us think? Grim, who had been sharpening his axe, finally spoke. It wasn't Hallowfang. Shadow glanced up. What? Grim's bearish voice rumbled low. Hallowfang's too dumb. Too predictable. He's cruel, yeah, but setting us up like that? No. This was bigger. They all knew it. This wasn't the work of one tyrant. Shadow leaned forward. Someone knew exactly where we'd be. Someone who controls the tyrants, or at least benefits from their rule. Vex frowned. A secret hand behind the curtain. Koda tilted his head. Like some kind of council? Vex crossed his arms. All right, if that's true, how do we even find them? If they're as powerful as they seem, they won't leave trails. Shadow stood. They just did. Everyone turned to him. Shadow flicked a coin onto the dirt. It gleamed gold, but the insignia carved into it was not of Hallowfang's kingdom. Vex grabbed it and studied it closely. This isn't from Ivory Hollow. Grim took it next and grunted. I've seen this before. It's from Ravenspire, a fortress city infamous for housing the wealthiest and most powerful figures in the land. If there was any place where a secret council of power-hungry elites could exist, it was there. Koda let out a long sigh. So, just to be clear, our brilliant plan is to march into the most well-guarded city in the entire region, sneak past the most elite warriors in the kingdom, and expose a secret organization that no one even believes exists? Shadow stood up, tossing his cloak over his shoulders. Exactly. Vex smiled. Oh, I love this plan. Grim simply nodded. Koda buried his face in his hands. I really need new friends. Their path was clear. To clear their names. To finish what they started. To destroy whoever was behind it. And it all began in Ravenspire. Chapter 6. Shadow, Vex, Grim, and Koda stood atop a ridge, overlooking the imposing city of Ravenspire. The city was a beast of stone and steel, wrapped in towering walls with sentries patrolling every inch. Inside, lavish mansions stood beside fortified castles, a city built on the wealth of tyrants and the blood of the innocent. Koda let out a low whistle. You know, now that we're actually here, this feels like a really stupid idea. Vex replied. That's how you know it's fun. Shadow's gaze was locked on the grandest tower at the heart of the city. That was their target. That was where the Shadow Council gathered. But first, they had to get inside. The plan, which was not a plan at all. Grim grunted. We're not walking through the front gates. Koda scoffed. No kidding. Vex tapped his chin. I say we sneak in through the eastern sewer tunnels. The city's waste flows into the cliffs below. If we climb up, we can slip inside unnoticed. Koda frowned. I hate that plan. Shadow shrugged. Then come up with a better one. Koda thought for a moment. What if, hear me out, we just don't go in at all? Like, what if we just retire, move to the mountains, and become goat farmers? Grim patted Koda's head. That's cute. Koda sighed. Fine. Sewer tunnels it is. Slipping into the lower cliffs, they scaled the jagged rocks until they reached the massive metal grates leading into the city's underground. The stench was horrible as expected. Koda gagged. By the stars, I think I just lost my will to live. Vex smiled. That happened long ago, Koda. With a grunt, Grim tore the grates open, and one by one, they slipped inside. They moved swiftly, dodging patrols and creeping through the labyrinth of tunnels until they emerged inside the city. They were in. Now came the hard part. The streets were alive with luxury and corruption. Nobles dressed in silk and gold strolled past beggars who barely had scraps to eat. Vex said with an angry expression, these people live like kings while the rest of the land suffers. Shadow pulled his hood lower. Not for much longer. They split into pairs. Shadow and Vex went to gather information while Grim and Koda secured a safe house. Chapter 7. Ravenspire was a city of whispers where power was traded in dark alleys and secrets were worth more than gold. The streets were alive with merchants and common folk, but behind the bustling market stalls and candlelit taverns, something far more sinister was hidden, the Shadow Council, the true puppeteers of tyranny. Disguised in worn cloaks, Shadow, Vex, Grim, and Koda blended into the crowd, their ears attentive for any sliver of information. This wasn't a battle of swords, this was a battle of wit. They started at the Broken Fang, a shady tavern where mercenaries and informants nursed their drinks alongside their grudges. Koda started a conversation with a drunken informant slumped over his ale. "So, tell me," Koda said, slapping a few coins on the table. "Who really runs the city?" The man chuckled, swirling his drink. "You think the nobles make the rules? Huh, they're just puppets. The real power? That belongs to the five." "Five?" Koda's ears perked. "The five who sit in the Council of Shadows," the man slurred. "No one sees them. No one questions them. But everyone obeys them." Koda subtly glanced at Shadow, who gave a small nod. They were onto something. Piece by piece. Meanwhile, Vex and Grimm took a different approach. They slipped into a local scribe's shop where records of political dealings were kept. "Find anything?" Grimm muttered, flipping through old ledgers. Vex scanned a document and whistled low. "Yeah, payments made to unknown benefactors in exchange for order preservation. That's a fancy way of saying someone is buying control." "Names?" Vex shook his head. "Just initials. We need more." Their breakthrough came when Shadow trailed a suspicious noble into the underground chambers of the Ravenspire Cathedral. Hiding in the shadows, he listened as the noble delivered a message to a robed figure. "The council is restless," the noble whispered. "The assassins are back. We need to act before they uncover too much." Shadow muttered, "Too late." After carefully following the noble back to his estate, they finally pieced together the five names. The five leaders of the Shadow Council. 1. Lord Vero, the strategist. 2. Dame Alira, the enforcer. 3. Grand Duke Morven, the financier. 4. High Inquisitor Vexel, the manipulator. 5. Chancellor Bane, the supreme leader. As they regrouped that night in their safe house, Shadows spread out the names on the table. "These five control everything," he said. "We take them out, we cripple the system." "But brute force won't work," Vex added. "They have an army. We have us." Koda grinned. "Then we get creative." A new plan. For the first time, their battle wouldn't be fought with swords, but with strategy and deception. "We need to turn them against each other," Grimm suggested. "Expose their secrets, their greed. Make them fight from within." Shadow smiled. "And once they're weak, we strike." Chapter 8. Shadow, Vex, Grimm, and Koda had chosen their first targets, Dame Alira, Grand Duke Morven, and High Inquisitor Vexel. They were powerful, yes, but their greatest weakness? Their egos. It started small. Grimm forged letters that made it seem as if Morven was secretly hoarding gold meant for the council. Koda spread rumors in the underground that Dame Alira had been silencing people without the council's permission. Vex bribed a guard to accidentally reveal a fake report that High Inquisitor Vexel had been spying on the others for his own gain. Shadow ensured that key officials overheard these rumors, letting paranoia fester among them. Within days, the three council members turned on each other. Morven accused Alira of betraying their code. Alira called out Vexel, saying he was plotting a coup while Vexel lashed out publicly, calling them both greedy cowards. At a lavish banquet meant to show unity among state officials, the three lost control. "You've been stealing from US, Morven," Alira roared, slamming her goblet onto the table. "You think I'm the problem? You've been murdering people without permission." Morven shot back. "I should have had you both executed long ago," Vexel sneered. The room fell silent as gasps echoed from the nobles and officials attending. By the time they realized what had happened, it was too late. The officials ordered their immediate arrest. In prison, Dame Alira, Morven, and Vexel sat in chains. Their only hope? Chancellor Bane and Lord Vero. "Alira, we must get out of here," Morven muttered. "They will kill us." "There's only one way," Alira said. "We call Bane." A guard was bribed to deliver a message to Chancellor Bane and Lord Varro. The response was swift. Bane's message. I have no knowledge of your crimes. You are on your own. Varro's message. Do not contact me again. Betrayed. Alira slammed her fist against the cell bars. Those traitorous rats. Morven fell to his knees. We're finished. Meanwhile, in the hidden safe house, Shadow, Vex, Koda, and Grim were reviewing their next move when a sharp knock startled them. Immediately, Shadow pulled his dagger, and Koda reached for his axe. No one should have been able to find them. A voice called out from the other side, Relax. If I wanted you dead, I wouldn't have knocked. Shadow exchanged a glance with Vex before slowly opening the door. A tall, trench-coated wolf stepped in. I know what you've been up to, he said. And I must say, I'm impressed. Who the hell are you? Koda growled. The wolf tipped his hat. Detective Riker. Riker was a legend, a detective who had spent years trying to expose the Shadow Council, but always came up short. I knew it had to be you four, Riker continued. No one else could have pulled that off. But I also know this isn't over. He threw a document on the table. It contained information on the last two targets. 1. Lord Varro, the Shadow Strategist. 2. Chancellor Bane, the Supreme Leader. These two won't be as easy, Riker said. Bane has entire legions under his command. Varro has spies everywhere. You got lucky with the first 3. You won't get lucky again. Shadow replied. Who said anything about luck? The 4 of them leaned in as the detective sat down. The final battle wasn't going to be about brute strength. It was about outplaying the ultimate masterminds. Chapter 9. The 3 imprisoned officials, Dame Alira, Grand Duke Morven, and High Inquisitor Vexel, had been abandoned by their once loyal allies. But if they were going down, they weren't going alone. Seated in the prison cell, Morven leaned in close to the others. They left us here to rot, he hissed. But we still have power. We know everything, every deal, every name, every crime. Vexel said. You mean the file? Alira nodded. The master record of the Shadow Council's dealings. If it falls into the right hands, the entire network collapses. They had hidden it long ago, but now it was their only bargaining chip. We send word to Detective Riker, Alira decided. He's been after us for years. He'll take the deal. A bribed guard smuggled out a message. Meet me at cell 13. I will confess everything. I have the file. Morven. But what they didn't know was that the message had already fallen into the hands of Chancellor Bane. The next morning, Riker arrived at the prison. He was met by a guard who led him to cell 13. But as he stepped inside, Alira, Morven, Vexel was dead. Each one slumped over, their throats silently cut. Riker cursed under his breath. The only people who could bring Bane down had been silenced. He stormed out of the prison, knowing he had one last shot. The file still existed. If he could find it before Bane, the game wasn't over yet. Riker immediately contacted Shadow, Vex, Grim, and Koda. We've got one lead left, he said. The file is rumored to be hidden at an outside Ravenspire. But they weren't the only ones after it. Bane had already deployed his enforcers. A race began, both sides racing to reach the inn before the other. Inside the old, abandoned inn, dust floated through the air as something rummaged through a hidden compartment beneath the floorboards. Then, crash. The door burst open, and Bane's men flooded the room. At the exact same time, Riker, Shadow, Vex, Grim, and Koda stormed in from the other side. Swords clashed. Fists flew. The entire inn shook with the chaos of battle. Koda tackled one of Bane's men, sending him crashing through a table. Vex dodged a dagger swipe before slamming his attacker's head into a wall. Shadow lunged at an enforcer, their blades sparking as they clashed. But amidst the fight, one of Bane's men grabbed the file and escaped through the back door. No! Riker shouted as he ran after him. Back at Bane's fortress, the stolen file was placed before him. The Chancellor's lips curled into a grin as he flipped through the first few pages, revealing the names of countless operatives and deals. But instead of reading further, he threw the entire file into the flames. The documents curled and blackened, the secrets of the Shadow Council turning to ash before his eyes. "It's over," Bane muttered. "No more evidence, no more threats." Back at the inn, the battle ended with Bane's men retreating victorious. Shadow, Vex, Grimm, Koda, and Riker stood among the wreckage, furious at their loss. But then a weak cough. From the shadows, a wounded fox limped forward, the innkeeper. You saved me," he whispered. Shadow knelt beside him, helping him up. The fox gave a pained grin. "I was ordered to guard the file, but I also knew Bane would come for it." He reached beneath his blood-stained coat and pulled out a sealed envelope. "What Bane's men took was a copy," he said with a weak laugh. Riker ripped it open. Inside was the real master file. Every crime, every name, every deal. It was all there. The room fell silent as they realized what they held. Vex let out a low whistle. "Well, now we've got a nuke." Riker replied, "And we're about to detonate it." Chapter 10. Chancellor Bane stood at the balcony of his obsidian tower, overlooking the darkened city below. The scent of burning incense curled in the air, mixing with the faint echoes of laughter from inside the grand chamber. Behind him, Lord Vero lounged in a velvet chair, swirling a goblet of wine in one hand, a smile resting lazily on his lips. "We did it," Vero said, savoring his drink. "That file is nothing but ash. No one will ever touch us." Bane let out a low chuckle, his golden robe shifting as he turned. "A minor inconvenience. And now it's gone, along with those 3 fools." He raised his glass. "To our untouchable reign." They clinked their goblets together. Inside the underground safe house, Shadow, Koda, Vex, Grimm, and Riker gathered around a wooden table, staring at the real file, the document that held the fate of the entire Shadow Council. "This is it," Riker murmured, his finger tracing the inked names. "Every corrupt official, every dirty deal, every assassination they ordered. If we use this right, we won't just take out Bane and Vero, we'll destroy the entire Shadow Council." Grimm leaned back, folding his arms behind his head. "So, what you're saying is, we replace swords with scandals?" He grinned. "I like it. Less chance of me getting stabbed. Again." Vex replied. "And it'll hit them where it really hurts, their reputation. If people start turning against them, they'll have nowhere to run." Shadow exhaled, eyes scanning the pages. "Then let's begin." The first leaks were subtle. An anonymous letter here. A hidden document there. Then, it spread like wildfire. Journalists received mysterious packages. Law enforcement got anonymous tips leading them to corrupt officials. Rival politicians, hungry for power, pounced on the information, exposing their enemies to the public. One by one, officials started falling, some arrested in broad daylight, others vanishing overnight before justice caught up. Even Lord Darius, Bane's most trusted general, deserted the council, fleeing the city under cover of darkness. Inside the Shadow Keep, the council began to collapse from within. "They're coming for us," one official shouted. "We need to disappear," another panicked. But Bane sat on his throne, his eyes burning with rage. Silence. His voice sliced through the panic like a blade. "This is no accident. Someone still has the real file." Bane's paranoia tightens its grip. Bane sent his most elite assassins to hunt down whoever had the real document. None of them returned. Vero, pacing near the window, tightened his fists. "Whoever's behind this is making a fool of us," Bane responded. "Then we'll burn them from the shadows." In the safe house, Vex leaned back with an apple in hand. "So, Bane keeps sending assassins to kill us, and they just keep disappearing? At this rate, he's gonna run out of employees. Shadow smiled, flipping through the pages. I almost feel bad for him. Grim grunted. I don't. They exchanged glances and burst into laughter. Riker spread the file across the table. If we expose Vero first, Bane will panic. He'll be forced into the open, and that's when we strike. The plan was simple. Vero would be lured into a public forum, believing he was meeting an informant. Hidden documents would be released to every major news outlet at the exact moment. Before he even realized what was happening, his crimes would be exposed before the entire nation. This will force Bane to act, Shadow muttered, staring at the candlelight. And once he does, we end him. In the heart of Raven's Spire, a grand forum was held. Hundreds gathered, eager to hear Lord Vero's speech. He stood on the stage, radiating confidence. As he spoke, a massive projection screen came to life. Suddenly, the voices of the people he had betrayed filled the air. Secret meetings, bribes, assassinations, all of it played out before the stunned audience. Gasps erupted. Angry shouts followed. Vero's eyes widened in horror. He turned to the guards. Shut it down. Shut it down now. But they didn't move. Even his own loyal men hesitated. The people started shouting. Traitor. Liar. Murderer. Vero backed away. He was trapped. Exposed. Helpless. Far in the shadows, Bane watched, gripping the balcony railing so hard his knuckles turned white. For the first time in his reign, fear crept into his heart. Chapter 11. Bane sat alone in the Grand Council chamber, staring at the golden sigil embedded in the marble floor, the emblem of his power. His fingers drumming against the armrest of his throne. Vero was finished. The streets were flooded with his face, labeled traitor, in bold letters on every wall, every newspaper. He was rotting in a dungeon, disgraced and powerless. The Shadow Council was no more. Those who weren't exposed had fled, fearing execution. And now, the people were looking at him. The untouchable, the supreme, the invincible Chancellor Bane. His name was being whispered in streets, not with reverence, but with suspicion. The walls were closing in. He tightened his fists. Not yet. Bane summoned his last remaining loyalists, the few men too afraid to abandon him. We strike first, he ordered. If we find those rats before they move against me, we crush them. But his men hesitated. There was no more we. The council was gone. Bane spat angrily. You're all looking at me like I'm already dead. A sick feeling settled in his chest. Then, one by one, they knelt. Chancellor, forgive us. As they placed their crests, symbols of loyalty, on the floor before him. And left. He was alone. At the edge of Raven's Spire, Shadow, Koda, Vex, Grim, and Riker watched from a hidden alleyway. He's drowning, Riker muttered. His own people are abandoning him. So, what do we do? Let him sink, Grim asked. Shadow replied, No, we make sure he drowns. They had one final card to play, one last strike to make Bane's own nation turn against him. And it was already in motion. Bane paced in his chamber. He needed control. He needed fear. Then a knock. A messenger stumbled in, panting. Sir, there's a rebellion forming outside. Bane straightened. Rebellion? The messenger swallowed. They're chanting your name. Not in praise, sir. They're calling for your head. Then the final blow came. The guards have turned against you. Bane's world spun. No, impossible. They're standing with the people. His own army had betrayed him. Bane rushed to the window, his breath catching as he saw it. Thousands of citizens gathered in the streets, torches in hand, roaring his name with hatred. Down with Bane! Down with the tyrant! The people had rejected him. From a rooftop nearby, the crew watched the chaos unfold. Vex smiled. Damn, we really did a number on him. Grim chuckled. That's what happens when you piss off an entire nation. Koda squinted. So, what now? We just let them tear him apart. Shadow nodded. That was the plan. Koda hummed. Or, hear me out, we sneak into the palace, tie him up, put him in a barrel, roll him down the street, and let the people decide his fate. Vex blinked. Why a barrel? Koda shrugged. I just feel like it would be funny. They all just stared at him. Grim snorted. This is why we don't let you make plans. Bane knew it was over. The people wanted blood. His guards had turned. His power was dust in the wind. His hand hovered over his sword. Run? Fight? Beg? No. He was Chancellor Bane. He would not be paraded through the streets like a common criminal. His pride would not allow it. He reached for the dagger at his waist, fingers tightening around the hilt. Taking a slow breath, he lifted it to his chest. In his final moment, his lips curled into a bitter smile. They may take my name from history, but they will never see me fall. And then, he drove the dagger straight into his heart. The news spread like wildfire. Chancellor Bane, the untouchable, was dead. The Shadow Council was no more. The city erupted in cheers. Bells rang across the capital. The age of terror was over. In a quiet tavern, Shadow, Koda, Grim, Vex, and Riker raised their glasses. To Bane's downfall, Riker said. To freedom, Shadow murmured. Grim grinned. To Koda's stupid barrel idea. Koda groaned. Let it go, man. They laughed, the weight of war finally lifting off their shoulders. The end.